Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Erotically Challenged, your safe space for topics a little too awkward to bring up to your mom. This episode we're going to be talking about how to get comfortable with your sexuality, and I mean way more than whether you are straight, pan, or gay, or etc, etc. And it has nothing to do with gender either. This is like all things sexual, like to the point of Freudian stuff, alright? First I want to say thank you so much to my friend Sam for this lovely new background. I love it. And we did a bunch of test runs and this is the best one. So I'm super appreciative and let's get started. So we are talking about all things sexuality. This is so much more than just the LGBTQ community. So many people will think that as soon as you say sexuality, they're thinking about your activities in the bed, or they'll think that you're trying to tell them that you're monogamous, polyamorous, or that you're sexual, or that bisexual, I mean straight, or that you are gay or lesbian or anything that you want to say. You could even talk about genders. But it's not specifically that. The Oxford Dictionary defines sexuality as the capacity for sexual feelings, which is such a big umbrella of topics that the reason I'm talking about this today is how to become comfortable with that and how I'm not comfortable with that. And I don't want people to get the idea just because I post boudoir, just because I talk about things like this to a camera, that I am comfortable going around to my partners and talking to them about sexuality. Because in all reality, I'm not. Since my last episode on boudoir, and I talked about just kind of getting confidence with doing it, how you can kind of get started with that, a lot of people have already asked me how I got that confidence and kind of reminded me of how I used to be back in high school and even college versus who I am today. And I think it's very important to realize that who I am today is so different from how I was in high school, that people who are listening right now that knew me way back then are probably like, who the hell is this? This is not the Angel I know. Because it's not. Because I've been through so many life experiences and built up a confidence, kind of, something that when I was in my first sign language class, I know this is going to sound so strange, but my first sign language class taught me something so unique. And ever since that day, I have lived it. And I'd like to share that with you. The first thing I want to say is confidence in general is a skill. It is not something you're born with. It's not something that you really have a talent for. It's something that you learn. Confidence is something you learn because in society, we can rip that stuff apart. And then you are feeling like dirt. You're feeling scared, you're feeling shameful, and we're going to talk about that in a moment. So something that I learned when I was in high school, as a senior in high school, and I hated myself, as many depressed teenagers do. I was trying to learn how to sign, things wasn't happening, and I was like so nervous, I was always shaking, and I wasn't communicating right. My teacher looked at me, right? My teacher looks at me and she goes like, fake confidence. Fake confidence. Now, and at first I was like, pig? No. So I'm looking at her and I was like, fake confidence. Fake confidence. Okay. I signed it, everything not correct, all right? I got a good grade that day, but I did things incorrectly. But you know what? I wasn't ashamed by it. I had so much fake confidence that even though the words I was saying didn't really make sense, she was proud that I did it as if I knew what I was talking about. And she was also proud that when she told me, hey, that's not how you do it, I went, oh, thank you, fixed it, and then proceeded. Just remember that if you're doing anything with different cultures or anything in a learning circle at all, just don't get in your head that this fake confidence thing means that you are perfect, because you still have to be open to communicating and learning the correctness. But this fake confidence that she instilled in me that day lived with me for the rest of my years until now. That's almost 8 years ago now. Oh, no. We're not going to do that math there. We are not doing that math. Anyways, oh God, no, we're not going to do that math. So let me explain how this fake confidence has turned me into who I am today. When I first joined my sorority, I was politely made fun of by my new friends. Now, when I say that, it's because I used a different vocabulary than they did. I didn't make sexual jokes. I didn't flaunt myself. I was just kind of naive and happy. I said words like restroom, intercourse, undergarments, and people thought it was funny. I couldn't talk about genitalia. I was in a journalism class and there was something called the vagina monologues, which I immediately went home that weekend because one of my close friends wanted to bring me, and I went, haha, no. Went home, came back, and had to do a journalism project on the friggin' monologues. The fact that I just said it, this is maybe the 4th time I've ever said that word in my life. That was the first time I ever had to say that word, and it was in front of a whole class of people being recorded, and I cried. Absolutely cried. I was miserable because I was afraid and I was shameful. So this fake confidence thing is huge, because someone actually messaged me the other day and started talking to me about my traveling and my boudoir, and I told them that. I went, no, it's not real confidence. Like, I'm still so anxious about myself and self-conscious. And you know what he said to me? He said, that's not fake confidence. That's courage. I have enough courage to where I post half-naked photos of myself on the internet because I want to inspire other women to have that self-confidence in themselves. And I have inspired some people to do things like boudoir, or to go and wear what they want, or sometimes someone has even come up to me and said that they are so happy for me. So many people say this to me. They're so happy for me that I have gone out and done these things because I used to be so ashamed of myself. Shame is a beast. It is an evil, eating beast. And unfortunately, due to your culture or where you live, because, American culture, people don't like to say it like that, but no matter where you live, sexuality is taboo. It is pushed down, and it is usually shown in forms of entertainment because it is creativity and everyone can relate to it. We may be a more sexually open society and country, but at the same time, people are still battling with being part of a different community. When I decided that I was going to be polyamorous, people didn't take it the way that I kind of hoped they would. Some people were like all excited, right? Some people were like, oh my God, I knew it. Like, that's so awesome, good for you. And suddenly my confidence is building, right? Because these people I care for are saying, wow, like that's so cool. That's awesome for you. Well, what about the other people who didn't like what I was doing? They made it known. And suddenly I'm now ashamed of how I feel. Well, what about my sister, who has been in a lesbian relationship for most of her young adult life? She had to go do the same thing, and she started when she was in middle school, and people bullied her, and it was bad. I remember people bullying other people for just being openly sexual. Even people, if you weren't sexual, you still got beat up on. Like, people thought I was a virgin, more so that I was just anti-sexual, all the way up until like halfway through college. And the thing is, I'm not. The thing is that I'm just more private about it, a little bit more conservative about it, but people still made fun of me for it. Like, where's the winning? I can't be sexual because I'm going to get attacked about it. I can't be not sexual because then I'm prude and naive about it. There's no in between. If a man is sleeping around with a lot of women, his brothers are like, oh yeah, good for you. Of course, yeah, that makes him a man whore, but also he's a player, but also his friends think it's really cool and good for him because that body count is great. If a woman is sleeping around, single woman, right? We're not talking about cheating or anything like that. She's sleeping around, well, suddenly she's a whore. And it's like, everybody thinks that. Where is the line? Why are we like this still? It's just something that's ingrained in society, and it's just unfair. And I don't have to explain that because everyone who's watching this has already come to the terms that it is not fair. It's not fair. Luckily, Gen Z is out there being like, positive sexuality, let's go! And they don't care because they're like, I am who I am, goodbye. And I kind of love that. Unfortunately, it's not an easy path getting that confidence or courage to be open about who you are. And something I really want to talk about is living in that fake confidence. People are going to respect you differently if it looks like you are confident. If you are going to the bar and you are dressing the way that you want to dress and someone makes a comment at you, if you brush them off, the people with you are going to go, oh my God, she's so freaking confident. Holy cow, he really just did that. Then they're going to look at the guy or the girl that said something and they're going to be like, how dare you? How could you do that? And then you're just going to be like, whatever. The person who made that comment, they're not going to get any satisfaction because they just tried to bring you down and you brush them off. It might kill you inside, but that's where that fake confidence comes in. That's where that courage comes in. It might kill you because you might be so embarrassed or nervous for wearing that mini skirt, or so nervous because you did a full face of makeup, or maybe you're dancing for like the first time ever and people are like, oh my God, she's dancing with all those men. How could she do that? Like, ew. But you're dancing and you're being respectful about it, right? Like if they, don't be stealing other people's men. Don't be going around. Remember that health standards are a thing, right? But also, if you can make it look like you know what you're doing and you love what you're doing and you don't care about what others think, even if you do, you're going to train yourself to start being more confident because you're going to start training yourself to not care what people think. The next thing I really want to talk about, aside from this lovely fake confidence, is feeling ashamed. Feeling ashamed is something that can really start when you're really young because you are getting shut down in any sexual advances or sexual culture. And it's so much more than literally rejection. It is something that your parents can instill on you, your friends can instill on you. I remember people talking about sex and pornography when I was a kid, like 5th grade, right? I remember that. And I remember being like, oh my God, you guys are talking about this stuff? And I also remember being so uncomfortable because I didn't relate to any of it. And I remember people being like, oh, it's because you're a goody-goody. No one's gonna want that. And the girl next door, blah, blah, blah. And I was in like 5th grade and I was like, what the hell? Again, in high school, people didn't allow me to be sexual because when I started getting curious, they were shutting me down right away. And they were saying how I couldn't think like that or I couldn't do these things because I'm the good goody. Because I'm the sweet little girl. So how do you change that without people thinking that other people are forcing you to do that stuff or being a bad influence on you? I grew up super, super Christian, right? Very conservative family. My mom was super confident in her sexuality and I saw it growing up, but at the same time, I wasn't allowed to be like that. And I think that a big portion of that was seeing how adults interacted with each other, but also seeing how the people in the Christian community reacted to that. Growing up, sex was a no-no. Kissing was a no-no. I got afraid to date people, and I mean like holding hands, walking down the hallway, because I thought that I was going to break my mother's heart. I thought she was going to get so mad because I wanted to hold hands with a boy, because a boy texted me a heart emoji, and she said, we need to talk. But the thing was that my mom had me at a very young age. I wasn't sexual. I actually was afraid that I was going to be asexual as a kid, and then I thought maybe I would never have a family because of it. But the thing is that you have to feel comfortable with yourself, your partner, your situation, and you have to have people to confide in before you can be openly sexual. And unfortunately, if you don't have those things like I didn't, or if you're constantly joked about for not being like that, it kind of suppresses those emotions more. So you are suppressing your sexuality, and it can do some damage. It can cause problems with communication in the future. It can cause you to be very sexually frustrated because you want to try some things and you don't know how to communicate that. When I was younger, in high school even, I once told a group of kids that I liked it better, found it the most attractive thing when a man was shirtless with their jeans on. It became a joke. It became a joke because they went, how do you want to turn Angel on? Put your pants on. Start getting dressed. And the thing was that it kind of got me nervous to bring that stuff up again. And it wasn't until I joined a sorority and was surrounded by women that I forced myself to say something. Again, you have to train your brain to be comfortable about it. I did it super easy, right? I went over to someone, my roommate actually, who I knew was more knowledgeable in sexual confidence or just comfortability. So I went over to her and I would just start asking her little questions, right? I would just start asking her things. She loved Cosmopolitan. She had all the Cosmo magazines. She let me read some of the Cosmo magazines, and that really just got me understanding that there is a huge community out there and you can still do it privately. Like that I don't have to be super open about it and that that's okay. But that was like my next step. So my next step was educating myself and having to get over that shame from that super early Christian mentality. Getting over shame isn't easy. It is something that you have to understand and accept that the flaws that you are forcing upon yourself were actually given to you by other people. And it's something that a lot of people who grew up in religion kind of understand about each other. And it's just something that if you are ashamed of who you are, you need to find people who you can talk to about it. People you can trust. That, for me, is not really people that are in my family. It's those girls from the sorority. It's one of my best guy friends growing up, and I drinking like crazy on Halloween, and we're like, okay, let's talk about something that we would never talk to each other about. And we're just talking about things that we like sexually. And suddenly you're like, wait, you think like this too? Well, you're my best friend. Why did I always think that you were going to judge me? Well, if they're your best friend, they're not going to judge you like that. If anything, if something's like wrong and there's like all these red flags, they're probably going to be like, hey, let's talk about this a little bit more. I don't think I live with that shame anymore. And it took years. Somebody recently actually brought this up to me and asked me, and they said, do you ever suffer with that shame? That shame of fornication. That shame of drinking until you're drunk, even though the Bible says not to. Kissing that person or going out and having a good time because you grew up thinking that God would smite you. That I had a threesome with a woman. And if I were to say that at any church, they would look at me like I had 6 heads because they'd be like, oh my God, why are you admitting this right now? No, I don't think I'm ashamed. I no longer feel guilty because why do we have the capability to feel the way that we do? In basic psychology from childhood. If you know anything about Freud, he literally talks about kids being sexual from like birth. And he's like, 2-year-olds like butts, and they will touch butts because they don't understand, and that's why they touch feces and such, and they'll whatever, because it just fascinates them. That's why the whole Oedipus complex exists. This is something that is normal and in our biology, and once you learn that, why am I ashamed of it? Now, I do feel guilty about mistakes that I've made. I'm guilty about things that I think I did that were wrong. But learning the skill of fake confidence, learning that these shameful feelings about sexuality are actually society pushing them down my throat, being like, you can't feel this way, it's not right, makes all that shame go away. But it took my whole life up until maybe a few years ago, and that's like 21, 22 years of other people telling me what I can and shouldn't feel. Going to the doctors and being afraid to tell them that I'm not a virgin because I'm afraid of them telling my mother. Not understanding or trusting that if I were to go over and say, hey, I'm feeling this way, I just want advice, because they're going to judge me. Well, that takes a really long time, and it takes a really good support system. So something that I think everyone should do is find someone or some people, and you can even do it on the internet. The internet is fantastic. DM them and ask them, hey, this is going to be so weird, but I've been thinking of having feelings for a woman, and I'm a woman. I don't really know what it means to be lesbian, and I just need advice on blah, 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 blah. If you were to ask that to like an LGBTQ plus community Facebook page, or someone that you kind of follow online, or even a friend like I did who was lesbian or had lesbian partners, they're not going to judge you. They're going to be, one, probably super excited for you, and they're going to give you real advice. They're not going to out you because they know what it feels like to be in your position. When I was afraid, like super friggin' nervous about going to my first adult sex shop, which we will talk about in a future episode, I had a bunch of girls by my side making jokes about everything we were seeing, holding my hand, telling me, of course it's awkward because the store is meant to be awkward. And then afterwards, they like told me how everything worked. They told me about their first experiences with everything. They told me about how these things look so funny, but like they're here so people are buying them. I go to my first like Athena party, and suddenly they're educating us on how to be sexual as a woman and how to embrace everything about ourselves. This is how you get those steps of confidence. You show some courage, you go through it, you get rid of that shameful feelings. And the thing is, you don't have to be public about it. Just remember, you don't have to be public about it. I post boudoir pictures. You don't have to, because you can just be confident in yourself. I post those pictures because I feel good about myself and because I want others to see them. I want others to see them. I want them to see them to inspire people to do things. I want people to know that I'm feeling confident about myself, and if I'm not feeling confident about myself, I post it. Then again, I've been posting it for a long time now. It's something about doing what feels right to you. I don't talk sexually about anything to my friends. I don't talk about sexual things or kinks with my partners, though it's been a very slow and confident road. That's something that I bring up to my partners, and I say, hey, I'm not comfortable talking about these things, but instead, let's do this quiz. Instead of talking about this, why don't you take initiative, and if I really don't like it, I'll tell you. And if I do like it and we keep doing it, maybe I'll be able to say something about it. But if I can't say something about it, please don't make fun of me. Please don't get mad at me because I can't whisper sweet nothings during our intimate times. Don't make me feel bad about not being ready for that next step. And if they do make you feel bad, step away from them and say, okay, bye. Because I've been in plenty of situations like that, and people think that it's childish. People think that it's 2023, so I should be up to date already, and I should be super comfortable about all these things all the time. Well, you're not, because you're ashamed, and that's because other people did that to you, and that's not your fault. If you're really struggling, you can always go to a romantic relationship counselor. You don't have to go to couples therapy. You could if it's like impacting your relationship. But you can literally just go seek help by professionals to gain that confidence. If you're like, whoa, the people around me are absolutely garbage, go and seek help from a professional. Ask them, hey, these things are bothering me. What can I do to make those next steps a little bit easier? Something else that is a little bit more helpful is going to be looking things up on the internet in confidence. I don't watch pornography. It makes me uncomfortable, and I don't like it, and it's fake. I do read literotica, and literotica is a great way to see how many people out there are just as fucked up as the rest of us. If you can read it, someone thought it, and if you were thinking about it, they also were thinking about it. You're not alone. But you can also look things up on the internet that, how do you know that you might be part of the LGBTQ community? How do you know that you just don't feel right feeling this way? How to get tips on getting rid of shame, tips of getting rid of this. Listen to an empowering podcast. Go on Spotify and literally look up women empowerment or sexuality. Listen to things like Call Her Daddy. Read Cosmos. These are going to be things that just educate you and help you feel a little bit more confident about yourself, how you're feeling, and then you can start expressing it. You need that fake confidence. You need to learn how to get rid of that shame, and then you can start expressing yourself. And you gotta have a little bit of thick skin. Even if you're talking to someone about it, honest to God, talk to someone about it. Find anyone, even if you have to pay for them, it doesn't matter. Find someone, because you need to develop that thicker skin for when those naysayers come over and try putting shame back into you. Sexuality is part of us, it's part of our biology, it's how the world kind of keeps populating. It's not something to be ashamed of, it's something that you can see in all cultures. And you know what? If you're scared, that's normal. If you're scared of anything, you're allowed to be scared. It's that courage that brings you forward. If you find pictures online of people and you're like, whoa, I wish I looked like that, I want to do things like that, that's why I did that whole episode on boudoir. Take a step forward, do this if you like it, and you're like, whoa, I'm beautiful, I love myself. You can post it, you can keep it to yourself. That's just one more coin in the jar. You need to fill your jar before you even realize that the jar is full and overflowing. And all of that comes from self-love, feeling good about yourself, finding a partner that reciprocates that, or finding friends that can support you while you're going around town. Please remember health standards. We don't want to have any accidents here. If you have an oops baby from a one-night stand, it's probably going to make you feel really bad. Because you're like, oh my God, I don't even know this person. That's a whole different conversation. Please be careful. Please remember that birth control exists. Please remember that STDs exist. If you want to go through your bachelor phase, like my friend told me that I did, don't think about how other people are going to view you. That's the biggest thing. Even if it's your partner or your friends. If you feel sexy, if something makes you feel sexy, keep doing it. This is a very long and complicated road, and you need to have support, whether that is friends, family, your partner, or a professional. I think that my biggest tips are go online, look at videos for certain things that are intriguing you. Look up tips on accepting sexuality, tips on what different things are out there, if you're feeling like you're this or if you want to do that. Look up how people start, and there are tons of people just spewing information on how they started to do things. If you want, take a look at my other 2 videos. I think that I really touch base on just things that make you a little bit more comfortable with who you are and how to kind of do them and things that you can kind of test upon. But don't just sit there and let your mind ruin it for you, because you are going to need courage to figure out why sexuality is such a bad thing. And something that I think is also important is if you are doing this road and you find that the people around you aren't really accepting of it, don't talk to them about it. Or you can talk to them about it and you can say, hey, I'm trying to do this for me right now, and like, what's your problem? Why are you reacting this way? Can we please talk about it? Because I care about you a lot and I just don't understand why you're reacting this way. Sometimes it's because they're ashamed. So many people come up to me and they've been like, why would you do this? Why would you do that? A future husband's not going to like you if you're posting pictures of yourself. And it's like, if my future husband does not want me to do this and they think that this is gross and shameful, then they're not my future husband. They're not my future wife. They're not my future this. They're not my friend. Like, if they're really that uncomfortable with how I choose to express myself, then they are not for me. And that is a really tough thing to go through and understand. Surround yourself with people who love you, support you. Find people who you can just ask. And you don't have to ask one person everything. You can ask multiple people different things. That way, you're asking the people where it actually makes sense. I really hope that this helps somebody. If there's something that I said or nothing is really clear, or maybe I just spewed a bunch of random information and you're like, what the hell is she talking about? Go ahead and leave a comment, DM me, figure it out. And then, honestly, tell me how it worked out for you. Leave a like, give this a share. If you also feel a little bit ashamed and you're kind of confused on how it all got together, go ahead and, do some inner searching, inner healing, practice mindfulness. Go and do something crazy. Go and support yourself. Buy a book about random things, like 100 things to do to get yourself here. Go to Spencer's and just walk through the back. Go to Spencer's and just walk through the back. You're feeling embarrassed? Wear a mask, like a COVID mask, a medical mask. No one's gonna know it's you. Go and take a walk. Just walk. Get yourself comfortable being around the area so that you can start thinking, maybe I want to do this. Maybe I want to do that. Another thing to do, you're uncomfortable talking about sexuality, but like you are a sexual person and you're married or have a boyfriend or girlfriend, etc., etc., go buy something like those sexual die things. Like, just buy some dice. Buy a card game. Buy one of those, like, romantic sex paint pad things where, like, you put paint on yourself and then you, like, do the dirty on it. Go do that. Buy it for them. Now you have something that you're like, aha, I think it's a joke. See how they respond. If they respond positively, you have nothing to worry about. If they're kind of really reserved about it, you can kind of talk about it and be like, come on, like, I just can't want whatever. Don't force someone to do something they don't want to do. That's not going to be good for either of you. But if you're spending like $5 on some dice with some weird little things on it, there's no harm in trying. And you can always use it as like a gag gift, pun intended. If you are buying these little gag gifts and they're reacting positively, maybe you can start something new in your relationship. If you're buying them and they're negative about it, just ask. If they seem absolutely disgusted, you can be like, oh my gosh, hey, I didn't think that you were going to react this way. It's okay. I can literally return them. Like, don't worry about it. But I would like to try something like this in the future. I thought it would be fun for us. Then you can be like, is there something that you think that would be fun for us? Don't forget that support groups exist. Go and interact with these support groups. Go ask your questions anonymously. And just take it slow. Take it slow. Do the research. Get a support group. I'm hoping that I just put you towards the right direction in this confidence and sexuality. So to recap, fake confidence and courage is the first step. Feeling good about yourself and getting rid of those shameful thoughts and feelings and accepting that you are who you are and accepting that a lot of your shame is from other people or expecting yourself to be like someone else or being afraid of someone else's actions. And just getting a good support group, any form of the matter. It doesn't have to be your mom. It doesn't have to be your best friend. It could literally be an anonymous group or a professional. Those are going to be your 3 key steps. And even if your support group is literally just educating yourself through Cosmo magazines like I did, it's still a way of knowing that it's accepted somewhere, and you can start thinking and reflecting on your own actions and your own thoughts, hopefully in a positive light. And then you go back to your support group, and you say, hey, here's this. Have you read Cosmos before? Go and hang out at like one of those bookshops or whatever, buy the female women-centered magazines. You're gonna see other women there, and you might just meet one of your new best friends. You might just walk by and be like, oh my God, I didn't read that one yet. Have you read this yet? Sorry, I don't want to interrupt. I just get so excited about when these Cosmos come out. Suddenly you're in a conversation with a stranger who has something very similar to you, and you can talk about things and pretend to be someone else, like having fake confidence, pretending to be someone else, because eventually you're going to train your mind to have that courage and confidence. You're going to train your mind to accept and get rid of that shame. You're going to train your mind to being okay with communicating about things that this generation is all supportive of. As always, thank you so much. Give a like, give a comment, come back next time, and there's a little bell, so if you want to put on the reminder bell, next time we're going to be talking about even more fun, erotic challenges. Thank you for being here. Much love. Peace out, and have a wonderful day, everybody.